when it comes to absolute savagery, I mean, we could say that there are people causing trouble in here, but sometimes there are people causing trouble in the world, and they're not individuals, but governments. Governments. Just in, Vice President J.D. Vance rips European leaders to their faces at the Munich Security Conference. That is an understatement. This speech was savage. This speech was savage. Calls them out for criminalizing free speech. Vance specifically called out the United Kingdom for being the worst of them all. I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no! Free speech, I fear, is in retreat. So I'm going to play 2 clips of this speech so you can understand. You can understand how he called both the European Union and the UK. He told them, you are doing it wrong, people. You are doing it wrong. You have to follow America's lead. Here it goes.
I look to Brussels, where EU commissars warn citizens that they intend to shut down social media during times of civil unrest the moment they spot what they've judged to be, quote, hateful content. Or to this very country, where police have carried out raids against citizens suspected of posting anti-feminist comments online as part of, quote, combating misogyny on the internet, a day of action.
Yeah, we know how that two-tier justice in which you can commit heinous crimes on the street, but if you have a misplaced Facebook post, then you go to jail.
I look to Sweden, where 2 weeks ago the government convicted a Christian activist for participating in Quran burnings that resulted in his friend's murder. And as the judge in his case chillingly noted, Sweden's laws to supposedly protect free expression do not, in fact, grant, and I'm quoting, a free pass to do or say anything without risking offending the group that holds that belief. And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom.
Ooh, this is gonna be good.
Where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs. A little over 2 years ago, the British government charged Adam Smith Connor, a 51-year-old physiotherapist and an Army veteran, with the heinous crime of standing 50 meters from an abortion clinic and silently praying for 3 minutes.
I mean, that is insane. If I wrote, I don't know, dystopian book, and I wrote something like that you were prosecuted because you were silently praying for 3 minutes outside an abortion clinic, nobody would believe that. If you put that in a movie, everybody would say that is insane. Nobody's gonna believe that. That is not something that would happen in real life, and it did happen in real life.
Not obstructing anyone, not interacting with anyone, just silently praying on his own. And after British law enforcement spotted him and demanded to know what he was praying for, Adam replied simply, it was on behalf of the unborn son he and his former girlfriend had aborted years before. Now, the officers were not moved. Adam was found guilty of breaking the government's new buffer zones law.
Breaking the new buffer zones law. I'm going to talk about the UK in a minute.
Which criminalizes silent prayer and other actions that could influence a person's decision within 200 meters of an abortion facility. He was sentenced to pay thousands of pounds in legal costs to the prosecution. Now, I wish I could say that this was a fluke, a one-off crazy example of a badly written law being enacted against a single person. But no, this last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law.
Private praying within your own home can lead to break the law. This is beyond 1984. This is way beyond 1984. Again, if this was a movie, nobody would believe this. Nobody would believe this. It's like the UK and Germany are in a race to the bottom. Sweden not far behind. I have to say, Sweden is not far behind. And I'm not saying that the countries are completely lost. Although Germany is leading that competition. Is leading that competition. But how to say this? It doesn't look like they are going to do any kind of U-turn on this. It doesn't look. It looks like they are pleased, or they have some kind of sadistic tendencies. The people that enact these laws and that write these laws and uphold these laws. And how is it possible? How is it possible? Like the other day, it was in Ireland. There was somebody was slashing people randomly in the street, and one lad got a slash on the neck. He got the stitches, and after getting the stitches, he went straight to the pub to drink a pint. And he was drinking a pint at the pub. Oh, he was so tough, and everybody was saying, "Oh, it's Irish made." And my question is, wait a second, if the Irish are so tough, why are you being invaded? Why are you letting the invasion just go through? The Scottish, how are the Scottish letting this happen? How this is, I think that at some point, somebody is going to prosecute me for asking these questions. I thought at some point I don't know how many friends I have in the UK. I lost count of all the friends I have there, and not to mention that is literally one of the countries that I have more body language buddies, and I'm really afraid of going to the UK. Because all that I've said about the government, because all of I've said in my shows, they know who I am. I'm sure that they know who I am. I tag people on X when I tell the things. What is going to happen? What is going to happen? Sometimes I should reach, and that's one of the reasons. Maybe that's why Lawrence Fox, and Father Calvin Robinson they left the UK, because they just couldn't be there. I don't know how Dan Wootton still manages to be in. Well, Dan is quite smart about it. He tries to avoid speaking on certain topics in a certain way. You have to, even if you are on Rumble, that doesn't matter, because you still have to speak about topics in certain ways so you don't get. It's not even canceled, but jail. Prosecuted. No. That's no. It's just not something that anybody wants for the countries, and so many of those countries are under a silent attack. And J.D. Vance was there, calling them to their faces, like calling them out. You are doing this wrong. This is insane.
Naturally, the government urged readers to report any fellow citizens suspected guilty of thought crime.
That is basically Cuba under Fidel Castro, Trudeau's dad. That is essentially Cuba under Fidel Castro. You were going to encourage, if not awarded or te dan una recompensa for snitching on your neighbor. About what are we talking about? But it's nuts. That's what I'm telling you yesterday, that if your country is getting too toxic, your duty is just leave. It's just beat it, because you can't You can't fight that.
In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
It's in retreat. And the other thing that he spoke about is Vance warns European leaders that mass migration is the most pressing issue facing their countries today, and that if they don't listen to people's concerns about it, they can consider themselves democracies. Oh my God, you're not a democracy. It's not that you're not a good Christian, or no, you're a bad person. No, you're not a democracy if you don't listen to your people. And in the UK, not that we mentioned the UK, you can remember the words of Douglas Murray. For 20 years, the people of the UK have stated they don't want the immigration. They do not want the immigration, and not the Tories, not Labour Party have paid attention to that. They have stimulated more migration. How is that possible? That is by design. I got my fair share, and not even of prosecution threats, death threats over my video of how governments use illegal immigration to control you. Yeah, death threats. Let's say I was not that used to those. But there comes a time that you begin getting those. You know, that's part of the job. What you talk about, it's like people got certainly upset. Not only those who are illegal migrants, but those who defend them for some reason that I cannot comprehend. I can understand that if you are, for example, an attorney that works with these cases, yeah, of course, illegal migration is part of the job. It's part of your, it's what brings money to you. I don't know how you earn money with that, by the way, but that's not my problem. But you have a vested interest in that. Immigration attorneys, I can understand. You want all the illegals coming in. I can understand that. Governments, I know you want the illegal immigration coming in because that way you can control people more easily. But the citizens, nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. And if you want them, you have been brainwashed because of this woke agenda, or gaslighted because of the guilt. Oh, you're a bad Christian, you're a bad citizen, you're a bad this and that, because you don't accept migration.
And of all the pressing challenges that the nations represented here face, I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration. Today, almost 1 in 5 people living in this country moved here from abroad. That is, of course, an all-time high. It's a similar number, by the way, in the United States, also an all-time high. The number of immigrants who entered the EU from non-EU countries doubled between 2021 and 2022 alone.
Double in 1 year.
And of course, it's gotten much higher since. And we know this situation, it didn't materialize in a vacuum. It's the result of a series of conscious decisions made by politicians all over the continent and others across the world over the span of a decade.
So he's essentially saying all this fuck up was on purpose, was conscious, was not by accident.
We saw the horrors wrought by these decisions yesterday in this very city. And of course, I can't bring it up again without thinking about the terrible victims who had a beautiful winter day in Munich ruined. Our thoughts and prayers are with them and will remain with them. But why did this happen in the first place?
You think that this is some kind of coincidence? There is a Munich security conference, and you have that horrific thing happened yesterday. You think this is some kind of a message, a wake-up call? You think that they're going to pay attention to that? Maybe they are not going to pay attention to the accident. No. That doesn't. No. Can't you? It's like that Norm Macdonald meme. But let's continue. I digress.
It's a terrible story, but it's one we've heard way too many times in Europe, and unfortunately too many times in the United States as well. An asylum seeker Often a young man in his mid-20s, already known to police, rams a car into a crowd and shatters a community. How many times must we suffer these appalling setbacks before we change course and take our shared civilization in a new direction?
So you are, he's telling them through their faces, you're incivilized. You're becoming incivilized. Import the third world, become the third world. I am telling you people, I come from the third world. I know how it is. I know what you can make of your high trust societies that are not high trust anymore. I'm warning you. It's like I come from the future. Like I come from the future. No. I come from the third world. I'm telling you, close the doors, make the filters much stricter, because you're gonna pay, and you're gonna pay really expensive. Luckily, in the United States, there have been this process of, deportation. But Europe, in Europe, I am not holding my breath. I am not holding my breath.
No voter on this continent went to the ballot box to open the floodgates to millions of unvetted immigrants. But you know what they did vote for? In England, they voted for Brexit, and agree or disagree, they voted for it. And more all over Europe, they're voting for political leaders who promise to put an end to out-of-control migration. Now, I happen to agree with a lot of these concerns, but you don't have to agree with me. I just think that people care about their homes, they care about their dreams, they care about their safety and their capacity to provide for themselves and their children. And they're smart. I think this is one of the most important things I've learned in my brief time in politics. Contrary to what you might hear a couple mountains over in Davos, the citizens of all of our nations don't generally think of themselves as educated animals or as interchangeable cogs of a global economy. And it's hardly surprising that they don't want to be shuffled about or relentlessly ignored by their leaders.
And that happens because the leaders have this kind of it's malice. It's flat out malice. They think they know better. Some of them are, posturing and saying, "Oh yeah, but we need to be we need to open the gates because we need to be better than anybody else. We can do this." Angela Merkel, this is for you. Thank you, Angela.
And it is the business of democracy to adjudicate these big questions at the ballot box. I believe that dismissing their concerns, or worse yet, shutting down media, shutting down elections, or shutting people out of the political process protects nothing. In fact, it is the most surefire way to destroy democracy. And speaking up and expressing opinions isn't election interference. Even when people express views outside your own country, and even when those people are very influential. And trust me, I say this with all humor, if American democracy can survive 10 years of Greta Thunberg scolding, you guys can survive a few months of Elon Musk. But what no democracy, American, German, or European, will survive is telling millions of voters that their thoughts and concerns, their aspirations, their pleas for relief are invalid or unworthy of even being considered.
The problem is that is going to continue.
Democracy rests on the sacred principle that the voice of the people matters. There's no room for firewalls. You either uphold the principle or you don't.
So he's telling you are just a bunch of losers. You're gonna lose your countries. You're gonna lose your culture. You're gonna lose your traditions. You're gonna lose your people. You're gonna lose everything for some kind of suicidal empathy, mass suicidal empathy. For what? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this to yourself?
Europeans, the people, have a voice. European leaders have a choice. And my strong belief is that we do not need to be afraid of the future. You can embrace what your people tell you, even when it's surprising, even when you don't agree. And if you do so, you can face the future with certainty and with confidence, knowing that the nation stands behind each of you. And that, to me, is the great magic of democracy. It's not in these stone buildings or beautiful hotels. It's not even in the great institutions that we have built together as a shared society. To believe in democracy is to understand that each of our citizens has wisdom and has a voice. And if we refuse to listen to that voice, even our most successful fights will secure very little. As Pope John Paul II, in my view, one of the most extraordinary champions of democracy on this continent or any other, once said, "Do not be afraid. We shouldn't be afraid of our people, even when they express views that disagree with their leadership." Thank you all. Good luck to all of you. God bless you.
One thing is for certain. This speech was not really meant for the people who were in the room at that moment with J.D. Vance. Because this speech is going to have the exact opposite reaction of what his speech is intended for. He's calling out for some sanity and listen to the people of your countries. This is going to have the exact opposite result of what is intended. And of course, in fact, J.D. Vance knows this. He knows this. He knows that these people have acted out of malice, and they are not going to change. This is not a Touchstone Pictures movie. This is not a Disney movie from the 80s. No, that, oh, I'm so touched by your speech that I'm going to change my ways. No, it's going to be the exact opposite. They're going to be, angry. They're going to be upset. How come this American comes here, tells us what our people want? How arrogant. It's going to be the exact opposite. But this speech was meant for the people of Europe, the people of the UK. The speech looks like, sounds like, it's written like it is addressing the people in the room. But it is not going to change the people in the room's point of views or opinions or actions or behaviors. If any, is going to make them worse. But this is going for the people, the citizens of these countries, to realize that they have to be heard. That they have to be heard. And it's the duty for any elected politician or public servant, every elected public servant, to listen to the people, to what the people want, because that's why they are public servants. They're not tyrants, and that's what they have been, legal tyrants, imposing. There's not only the free speech, the killing of free speech, and the killing of being able to believe in what you want to believe, but also this invasion that has been pushed in almost every single country in Europe and in the UK. So the speech is longer, but I think it was savage. It was telling to their faces, you are destroying democracy. You are not democracies if you insist in ignoring your citizens. And by doing this, by censoring free speech, and by pushing for all this immigration, that's exactly what you're doing. How do you think these world leaders, these European leaders, are going to feel about it? How dare this American? How dare this American vice president, this J.D. Vance, talk to us like this? That's gonna be their reaction. The thing is, can this actually change something at the ballot boxes? Can people in Europe and the UK decide that yeah, we need to go and vote for something different. And this is the issue. This is the big problem in many ways. It is that in so many instances, there are not many options, real options available for real change. And in so many instances, the options that seem like change don't have what it takes for the actual change that has to be made. As in, the damage that has been done is so great that even if a party is willing to search and make a change in any of these countries, they don't seem hard enough. And at the same time, if they just insinuate or just suggest what has to be done to correct course, they will be labeled fascists. They will be labeled alt-right, ultranationalist, all sorts of things. That is the issue that I see with Europe and in the UK. That's why it was so important in the past elections of the United States that Donald Trump won those elections. I can't imagine what would have happened with the world. The bullet we literally dodged as humanity if Kamala Harris would have become the president of the United States. That is unimaginable. This is one step that we have worldwide to regain some sanity. And that sanity, I know that many of you come from the United States, are watching me from the United States, but many of you are also watching from these countries. The only way to do this is the same way that Donald Trump won the elections in the United States, is registering and voting. Registering and voting, and most important, demanding that your vote and your voice is heard and your opinion is heard. Having said that, I made my video about Germany. You can check it out. It's already published in my channel. I need to stress again that if you see no real change, you don't see a party that offers real change. You don't see an actual way out. You don't see any politician that really cares for your country. Or if the politicians that care for your country have no actual influence in actual change, you must leave. It's not going to be easy, but maybe at some point I will tell you. Maybe this week, maybe this weekend, I could address the problem with Venezuela right now, in which we literally, there's no politician that has any way of turning things around. And I know that there are many of my Venezuelan friends and even family listening and say, hey, Jesus, don't make us lose hope. I need to be realist. If you're in Venezuela and you were still thinking that there was going to be any kind of change, this is the time that you have to really, I need to talk to you, Venezolano, directamente, and tell you that you have to leave the country. And I'm talking about Venezuela. And maybe, I don't know what is your situation in, I don't know, in Portugal or in the Netherlands or Austria or Spain or Germany. In Germany we know the possibility, but we also know all the baggage that is behind that possibility. So again, the craziest part of this is that this is not a difficult topic to understand. You know that these countries have been invaded on purpose, have been invaded by a radical extremism of abroadians that have no intentions of integrating to the culture and have absolutely no intentions of behaving according to, the local customs, let's say. I don't want to get into more trouble than the one that I'm gotten into. So you have to make a decision. But you have to make a decision. You have to go to the ballot boxes. You have to vote. You have to, I would say that you have to raise your voice, but if you're in the UK and you raise your voice, I will be responsible because I know what's going to happen to you. I could raise my voice in the name of the UK, call Keir Starmer a two-faced villain, but I'm not in the UK. That is a big difference. I can say that. But if you cannot even have an opinion about what kind of flags are being raised in your neighborhood, what kind of the noise or customs or things that certainly are not part of your culture and tradition, and you cannot talk about that, you need to do something. You absolutely need to do something for you and your family. And I would like to know what you think about this in the comments.